So before we start, I just want to give a very brief intro. And I just want to say that this webinar is hosted by Stella, and our aim really is to give a lot of digital creators and businesses the tools, knowledge to sell online effectively. We host this every 2 weeks, and we typically invite a lot of experts to come talk about things that they are experts in and really teach everybody. If you don't know anything about Stella, we're an e-commerce store builder for digital creators as well as physical creators. You can sell ebooks, courses, trainings, so even your services. And we also support local and international payments. So if you have clients that you're selling to internationally, this really helps. Um, Branding is such a very important part of any business, I think, and this is something that we think of a lot, and that's why we invited Baptista to come take a session on this. Really, just teach everybody like how to position ourselves, and we trust that you definitely have a good question.
Okay, now, so we are going to start, and I'm going to start by, okay, Chelsea, thank you. I'm going to start by introducing myself. Hi, everyone. I'm Baptista. I'm a brand strategist, and what I do is I help female entrepreneurs gain clarity with their brands, and I do this via brand strategy. So this is what we're going to be talking about today: brand positioning for social media growth. Are we ready? So drop something in the chat. Let me see if you're ready. Say yeah. All right. So this is what we're going to be talking about today. Just like Stella already mentioned, also in the page. Thank you, Coxon. Also in the page, he said that most people are struggling with positioning their brands on social media, and that's why I'm here to talk about it and to talk about strategies that can help you properly position your brand. Okay, bring it on. I love the energy. Okay, so I'm just going to rush through this. So first of all, let's uncover what we're going to be covering today. Let's go. So first of all, we're going to be covering what brand positioning really is. Most people may have heard the term brand positioning, but don't understand what it is. And so I'm going to be walking you through that sort of in a very or slightly in-depth way so that we have like a foundation. I'm very passionate about building like a foundation before we head on to the main thing. All right. And then we're also going to talk about types of brand positioning and which would work for you, for your brand, because yes, there might be some things, but there are some things that work for you, specifically for your brand. Anyways, I'm not going to start teaching now. We're going to uncover all of that. But yeah, we're also going to cover the types of positioning and what works for you. And then next, we're also going to cover social media positioning strategies. That's brand positioning strategies for social media. Okay. And then lastly, which is going to be exciting, we're also going to craft our positioning statement. Let me see your excitement in the chat. Let me see if you're really excited for this. And please get your pen and paper ready because, like I said, we're going to craft our positioning statement. So if your pen and paper is ready, just drop it in the chat. But I'm just going to dive right in. All right. So first of all, I like to break down whatever it is that I'm going to talk about so that we understand it from a very layman's level, right? So we're breaking down the word into two, which is brand and positioning. So first of all, what is a brand? For us to understand what brand positioning is, let's start from there. So a brand is anything that has some form of identification, personality, or anything used to mark ownership to a thing. So for instance, I'm Baptista, right? Baptista on her own, maybe with the name will make her a brand, but let's just leave that aside. So Baptista on her own isn't totally a brand, but the fact that you always get to see me with my glasses, with the rings, whatever, that sort of identifies me as Baptista. Also, my name identifies me. So a brand can also be a name, it could be a person, it could be a business, whatever it is, right? So anything that has some form of identification or personality or anything used to mark ownership to a thing is a brand. So I'm going to take it back to when branding started. I've covered this before on my page during a live that I held, where I talked about how branding started with people using people branding their livestock. So for instance, nowadays in Nigeria, if you're in Nigeria, you see some people tie like a rope on their chicken to identify their chicken that, oh, this is my chicken, this is mine. Maybe they use a green rope or they use whatever color, but you're able to use that to identify the chicken as Baptista's chicken, right? So the rope itself is not the brand. The chicken itself is not the brand. It's the togetherness that makes it a brand, right? So the same thing they used to do on cows then. So there's this thing they call a branding iron. So that was what they used then to make like an impression on the livestock to identify their own. I don't have a picture of that, but maybe you could go do some more research on that. But yeah, so what they would do is heat it up and then put like a mark, so like a tattoo, put a mark on the animal, and then that they're able to identify that as their cow, right? So that process, that action, that thing that they did was branding, right? They still do it till today, maybe a more advanced way, but yeah. And now people now adopted that and sort of made it fresher, right? So nowadays it's businesses that we brand. We brand also human beings, right? We brand anything. We can brand, my clothes can be a brand, right? My earrings can be a brand, right? So anything that has some form of identification that you can say, oh, that is a brand because I know it. I can identify it to this thing, right? So that's a brand. I hope we're clear. I hope this is going smoothly so far. Okay, so moving on, let's talk about positioning. So before we even define what positioning is, let's talk about position as a word, right? So position is a place where something is located. So an example is a table is located or placed in the study room, right? Consider a table and the location where it's placed is the study room. Please listen attentively because, yeah, just listen attentively. Anyways, so yeah, the table is placed in the study room, which is the location, right? Now, the subject here is the table. Please note the table, and then the location is the study room. I'll explain why we're using this to explain further. And then next, another explanation of position is a way in which something is placed. So using that same example of the table in the study room, we're going to say the table is placed in an upside down position in the study room. So that's two definitions, the location and then the position, right? The placement. I don't want to use the word position again so it doesn't confuse you, but the location and the placement. So the table is in the study room. So the location is the study room. And then the placement of the table is upside down in the study room. I hope this is clear. Okay? And so the subject again is table, and then the manner at which it is placed or the placement is called upside down, right? Now, all of this is what we'll call placement. Whether it is where the location is rather, that's the placement. And then the position in which, I'm trying not to use the word position, the manner in which it is placed is called placement, right? So where the table is placed and how the table is placed is positioning. To take this further, let's bring it down to you as a brand. So the table in this context is you as a brand. So imagine, close your eyes and imagine the table as you. You are the brand, right? So let me pick a name here to use as my case study. Okay, so let me use blessing. All right, so the table is blessing, right? And blessing, the table is in the study. And the study, let me take it again. The table is blessing. The study is the mind of your audience, blessing, right? And then the upside down table also equals how you want to be placed in the minds of your audience. I'll take it one more time so it doesn't confuse you. So the first thing is the table, which is you as a brand. And then the study room, where the table is supposed to be, or where the table is the mind of your audience, right? And then the upside down position of that table is now how you want to position your brand in their minds. Let me know if you're feeling this. Let me know if you're getting it, okay? So moving on, we could say that brand let's not talk about brand positioning. But yeah, we could say that all of this equals the brand, the audience, and the placement. So all of this is what gives you the brand positioning. But let's take it to another level, right? I'm going to paint a picture of a beautiful girl named Baptista with a long list of men who want to have a spot in her heart or even own the entire heart, right? Not just a spot. And you're one of these men. Let me take it again. So, a story of a beautiful girl named Baptista. I'm Baptista, and I have a long list of men trying to woo me. They want to date me or even marry me. They want to put a ring on it. Yeah, so you are one of them. So let me pick a guy from the audience. Oluwasegun. Okay, let me just say Shegun. Yeah. So, Shegun, you are one of these men who is trying to toast me, Baptista, right? Now, moving on, this is Baptista, which also could be defined as your audience. Look how beautiful I am. Look how beautiful your audience is. And then these are the other men who are trying to toast me. I mean, I'm a hot cake. Y'all are trying to get in with me. And so we could say that the other men are also businesses, other businesses trying to get your audience, right? I hope I'm making this clear. If it's not clear, I can slow it down and, someone's asking, is the webinar still holding? Can anybody still hear me? Okay, cool. Okay, so other men are other businesses, right? And Baptista is the audience. So think of me in two ways, as Baptista and as your audience. And think of the other guys you're going to be competing with as other businesses. Those guys are trying to woo me. So what are you going to do? And this is you. Gosh, Shagun, you look so handsome. This is you standing there in the midst of, well, not in the midst of, away from other guys. And you're trying as well to reach me, to win my heart, or to even own a huge spot in my heart, right? Same. So also your brand is trying to win your audience, but there are the competition around you, right? Moving on, let's just say that it's a constant fight to win that sweet spot, in brackets, position in Baptista's heart. So again, Baptista's heart is the audience's mind in a way that is different from how the other guys would. So let me take it back to that illustration and slow it down a bit. I didn't bring water and I'm running dry. Anyways, so yes, so Baptista is your audience. I am Baptista, you are Shegun, and you're trying to toast me. And there are other guys also on the line and they're trying to toast me as well, right? Now, bringing it to your business, I am your audience and you are your brand or your business. And there are other businesses trying to fight for attention with your for your audience's attention. So it's a constant fight, it's a constant battle it's a competition, right? To know who's going to win her heart or to know who's going to take, to own that spot, right? That sweet spot. So now that we've gone through all of that illustration, what is brand positioning? So simply put, it is that sweet spot, remember the sweet spot, that you want to own in the minds of your audience that makes them choose you over your competitors. I'm going to break down this again because, again, I like to get into, dice it. So simply put, it's that sweet spot. So what's the sweet spot? The sweet spot is the placement. Remember we talked about the placement, how you want to be positioned in, I don't want to use the word position again, how you want to be placed in the minds of your audience. So the underline that I put there, the minds of your audience, is the destination, the location, that study room. The sweet spot is the way. Remember the question mark? So that's how you're going to be placed in the minds of your audience, which we've not yet defined, right? We don't know that yet. But we know that we want to own that sweet spot, right? And the mind of your audience, the study room. Cool. Now, the competitors are the other guys trying to date Baptista, blah, blah, blah. Hope this is clear. So that's what brand positioning is. In my own term, at least, it is that you trying, that constant, it's a moving, it's not something that happens once. It's a continuous state, right, of competing with your competitors, right? Trying to gain your audience attention, trying to gain Baptista's attention, trying to win her heart, trying to get married to her, trying to do whatever it is that she likes, right? So now we're supposed to find out what that sweet spot is, right? But we're going to get there. So first of all, to get there, we're going to talk about the types of brand positioning. Okay, so types of brand positioning. So now we've covered what brand positioning really is, which is really the basics. I hope that it has really broken it down for you to understand it to the very tiniest bit. Like, you understand that brand positioning is actually a constant or a continuous act of trying to place yourself a certain way in the minds of your audience or trying to win their heart. But it also involves your competitors. They're not left out, right? Okay, yeah, okay. You said you're okay, cool. So now let's move on to types of brand positioning. So there are different types of brand positioning, but I'm going to focus on only 4 types. So we have the value-based positioning. From the word alone, you know that it's about value, right? But I'm going to explain more about it. And then we also have the price-based positioning. Again, you know that it's about price, but I'm going to talk more about it. And we have the benefit-based positioning. And then we have the problem/solution positioning. So these are the 4 that I'm going to be covering tonight. It's night here. Okay, so let's dive in. Let's start with the value-based positioning. So this is a type of positioning that uses value as its edge over competitors. So I'm going to give an example first of all, then further explain. So Apple is an example of a brand that leverages value by creating in their audience's minds that they are for the high class, right? So they have already understood that. I forgot to add my pain point. So the pain point is that their audience needed something to help boost their reputation in the society. Disclaimer, this isn't what Apple didn't say this. I'm just using this to, explain further. So it's possible that their pain point was their audience's pain point, which means that you also need to understand what your audience's pain point is to be able to know what type of positioning would work for you as well. So back to it. So Apple uses the value-based positioning because their audience values, value. Their audience likes anything that makes them feel like they're in a certain class, they're in a certain space, right? People who use Apple know that they're feeling okay. People who use Apple, it makes them feel good. Let me use that word. I don't want to say, it makes them feel good. Everybody can use Apple, but the normal ideology about Apple, whether it's iPhone, Mac, I want not an iPhone. I want a Mac, and I know that it's gonna, hype how your work is and all of that. So it makes you feel very good about yourself. It makes you feel like you're in a certain class. So that's what they use. So they leverage the value-based positioning to in the minds of their audiences, right? Yes, and it makes you feel big as well. Yes, exactly. So that's number 1 example. There are other brands that also have that class, that also have that value-based positioning. Maybe something like Chanel or what's this other fashion brand? But they use this, they leverage this value-based positioning because they know their audience. Their audience wants to be in a certain class. So that's what they do. So they know that their Baptista doesn't like anyhow guys. They know that their Baptista loves guys that are rich, or loves guys that are well-to-do, or loves guys that are at least feel very decent, right? So that's it. So moving on from the value-based positioning, price-based positioning. So this is a type of positioning that uses price as its edge over competitors. Now it's almost like the value-based positioning. Excuse me. I'm running dry. I didn't bring water. Okay, so the price-based positioning is almost like the value-based positioning, where it's based on value. It still has something to do with monetary, but not just monetary, but in the mindset for the value. But this is more about the monetary aspect. And one brand that does this is the Dollar Shave Club. I don't know if you know the Dollar Shave Club. They are shave club. So so there's Gillette in the market, and then there is Bic, and then there are other ones in the market. But people were tired. So Dollar Shave realized that people were tired of, let me take it to their pain points. Their audience needed something more convenient and affordable. So they realized that people were tired of having to pay for products, shave products, as expensive as Gillette is, and maybe other products. And they came in and provided something more affordable, but with same quality or even more, right? So that's their position. They understood that their audience weren't able to meet up with all the expense that Big or Gillette was bringing to the market. So they came in with something very, very affordable, and they made it even same quality or even better. And now so many people are using Dollar Shave product. Okay, for the guys, are using Dollar Shave Club, right? So they leveraged price as their positioning. So this is based on price. I don't know if you get what I mean. So the value, they understood their audience mindset. They wanted to be in a certain class. So that's how they began to shape their brands to be. And then the price, they understood that their audience were everyday people, right? Who needed to be able to get shave products and get it easily without stress. They wanted something convenient. So they went ahead and provided something more affordable, more convenient, and even with more quality. So yeah, that's that for the price-based positioning. So moving on to benefit-based positioning. This is a type of positioning that uses benefits as its edge over its competitors. So an example is Sensodyne. I know you know Sensodyne is a toothpaste brand. Other toothpaste brands, they focus on whitening and something else, but they focus on whitening your teeth and all of that. But Sensodyne focuses on the oral benefit, the oral solutions that you get from using their product. When you use Sensodyne, I've even heard doctors recommend Sensodyne. I've not heard doctors recommend maybe Close Up. Maybe you have heard, but I haven't heard that. So yeah. It's Dollar Shave Club. Yeah. Okay, cool. So I've heard doctors recommend Sensodyne as a toothpaste you could use to sort of help if you're having oral or you're having teeth issues. So I've heard them recommend that. So that's their positioning. The benefit that they give you is different from the benefit other people give you, right? So from using their product, you don't just get whitening, but you get healthy teeth, you get strong teeth, and yeah. Okay, so are we good with the benefits? So to go over, the first one was the value. They understood their audience's mindset of wanting to be in a certain space, in a certain class. And so they provided, or they positioned themselves in their audience's mind as people who could help them feel that way. And then for the price, they understood that their audience was tired of spending so much on shave products and all of that. So what they did was to provide something more convenient, more affordable, but also with more quality. And yeah, so they positioned themselves that way to tell them that, guys, we're here for you. We are your everyday guys. Come and buy from us, blah, blah, blah. And then the benefits, which is the Sensodyne, is they are focused more on the benefits, what you stand to gain from buying their products, which is, and for them, that is what differentiates them. Their benefits is different from the benefit from other toothpaste brands, which is just whitening and all of that. But theirs is more about oral solutions, making your teeth stronger, healthier, and all of that. So even if it doesn't whiten your teeth, yeah. So that's how they position themselves in the minds of their audience. Okay, so moving on. Now we have the problem and solution brand positioning, solution-based brand positioning. So this is a type of positioning that uses problem/solution as its edge over competitors. So an example is Baptista. So my business is an example of a brand that leverages problem and solution by creating in my audience's minds that I help you solve XYZ problem that other people may not solve, right? So this is directly, so just like we said, the value and the price almost seem similar, but value is more of a mindset thing and where they're at, reputation, while the price is more of the monetary aspect. And then for the benefits, it's what you stand to gain. Problem and solution is also what you stand to gain, but the difference here is it's solving a problem, right? You have a problem, I can help you solve it. So this is Baptista's type of positioning, right? That she can help you solve XYZ problem. So her audience's pain point is that they need a solution to XYZ problem that they're having. And in my case, the XYZ problem is people who are confused, people who are stuck with their brands, people who are finding it hard to articulate what their brand is about, are just feeling fuzzy, feeling feeling stuck and confused. I don't know what better word to use to describe how they feel, but it's the state of their mind. And this is where I come in to solve that problem, right? So this is my type of positioning. So I have positioned my brand in a way that tells you that I can help you solve your problem and this specific problem. Okay. So I hope that all of this was clear. I'm just going to run through all of that one more time. The first one is the value-based. Let me just take it back so you see. Okay, no, let me not take it back. So the first one is the value-based positioning, which is where it's a mindset thing. They understand that their audience needs to be, they want to use their product feeling like their reputation has been lifted, right? Not lifted off, like hyped, right? And the price is for the everyday person. They want something more affordable, more convenient, but still same quality, right? There's also, I didn't add this one because I didn't want to confuse, but there's also quality-based positioning. But the quality-based positioning is quite, like, it's not different because almost everybody nowadays wants to provide quality, right? I want to provide quality. You want to provide quality products or services. So yeah, so that's why I didn't add that. So the price is on the more affordable end. Okay, I know my audience can't afford this, and they want it to still be very good, very convenient, of more quality. Yeah, so they are gonna go for that. So you position yourself as the person who can provide something more convenient for them. And then the benefit is, talking about benefits, I provide better benefits for you. Well, it's not a case of better or worse. It's a case of, this is the benefit that I can provide for you. It's almost like a problem and solution. It's solving a problem as well, but in terms of like using a product, and yeah, so that's benefit. And then problem and solution speaks directly to a specific problem. For instance, you're confused with your brand. That's a specific problem, and I'm now positioning myself as someone who could help you come out of that stuck, or come out of that stagnancy with your brand, feeling confident and all of that stuff, right? So that's that. I want to get feedback from you. Are you following? Okay, very clear. Okay, cool. Okay, so moving on, let's talk about social media, right? Social media is a very large space with massive competition everywhere, and that makes it seem very hard to position yourself or even grab your audience's attention through positioning. But this is where an effective positioning strategy comes into play. So I'm gonna walk you through some strategies using specific steps on how to properly position yourself on social media. Okay, are you ready? So first of all, we're gonna start with your audience, right? I'm gonna explain that, but let me list all of them. So the first thing to do is to start with your audience. Excuse me. Okay, so the first thing to do is to start with your audience, and then you move to your competitor, right? Because I mean, you have to understand who your audience is first of all, right? And then you go over to, okay, who are these people, right? I'm going to cover that, but let's move. And then the next step is to define your positioning, right? So the first is to start with your audience. I hope you're following, and I hope you're taking notes. The first is to start with your audience. The next is to move to your competitor, and then finally define your positioning. So to explain it, let's start with your audience. Okay. All right. So the first question you're going to ask is, who are they? Who are these people that I want to reach? Are they female entrepreneurs? Are they men who grow long beards? I don't know, whatever it is you want to reach. Who are they? Be specific. Write that down. Let's know who they are. Okay. And then the next question is, what are their pain points? Because Once you know who they are and you know what their pain points are, it can take you to the next step, right? You cannot create an effective positioning strategy without knowing your audience first, because I mean, it starts with them. Remember the definition of positioning that we looked at. We said that we used the illustration of the table. The table is you, right? And then the study room is the position that you want to be in, right? Which is the minds of your audience. So you can't take away your audience from this. Your audience are very present in this. So you need to understand who they are. What study room are you going to be in, right? Which study room do you think your table is going to fit into, and how is your table going to be placed? Upside down, slanted, however. So yeah. So what are their pain points, right? Let me know if you're following. Okay. All right. Okay, so next step is to move to your competitor. So after starting with your audience by understanding who they are and also understanding what their pain points are, you're now going to move over to your competitor, right? When we're crafting our positioning statement, this is going to help us. So you may want to take notes, because I'm going to ask you towards the end. So I'm going to take it from the top, right? So first of all, we're starting with our audience. And to start with your audience, the first question you should ask is, who are they? You can write that down. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just write what you think, who you think your audience is. If my audience is female entrepreneurs, so I'm going to write that down, female entrepreneurs. And then what are their pain points? So my audience's pain points are they're struggling with finding clarity in their brands, or they're feeling stuck and confused with their brands, or they don't even know why they exist. They don't know what they're doing in this space. So there's a lot of things that I could use to describe their pain points, right? So just list them down, right? So once we're done with that, the next thing is to move to your competitor, right? So write down your competitor. Who are your competitors? So who in the market tries to meet these needs that your audience has a need for? So the pain points that you've listed out. So for example, I listed out that my audience is finding it hard to articulate their brand, or they're feeling stuck and confused with their brand. So who in the market is also helping people get clear on their brand, get clear on their message, get clear on whatever it is? Who in the market is doing this? So for me, I'm going to say other brand strategists, right? Or designers. So other brand strategists are the people who are trying to meet that need of helping them get clear, right? And then the next thing is, oops, it's not moving. Okay, cool. The next thing is, where are they failing to meet those needs? So I've written down that I have brand strategists as my competitors, people who are trying to meet the needs of my audience. But what in trying to meet their needs, what is it that they're lacking at? Where are they lacking? What are they failing at, right? So you're going to write down the loops, right? The gaps, so that you can fill in that gap. And that's how you can get an edge over them, right? And obviously, not everyone does not have it all together. So they'll definitely be lacking somewhere, right? So yeah. So what is that thing that they're lacking at, right? Okay, so moving on. We're now going to, once you've listed all of that, first of all, start with your audience by understanding who they are. Who, for me, it's brand strategists. And then, what was the other thing? What are their pain points? They're struggling to get clear with their brand, blah, blah, blah. Then you move over to the competitor, right? Who is trying to help them get clear with their brand? These days, both brand designers and strategists help you get clear on your brand. Even more people do that, but majorly brand strategists do help you get clear on your brand. So the next thing is, what are they failing at, right? And if you can't find what they're failing at, but you should be able to find what they're failing at. And by failure, it doesn't necessarily mean that your audience hates them because of it. No, they would love them, but there's just that gap. They could have done that thing better if that was involved, right? So I'm going to move over to defining your positioning. So first things first, you're going to say, how would I take that opportunity, the gap that that is left, right? The gap that is left open, that void, how are you going to fill that void? If for me, maybe my case would be the gap is other brand strategists are focusing on the technicalities of brand strategy, which is not bad, right? Everybody should, I mean, to help you come up with a good strategy for your brand, then technicalities. But me, where I came in was I'm more soul driven, I'm more passionate, I'm more human, right? And it doesn't mean that they're not humans, but I value that strongly and I make that very obvious, right? With my clients, with whatever I do online, I'm trying to make it obvious that this is what I'm passionate about. Sorry if you can hear any noise, external noise. So this is what I'm passionate about. So that was the gap that I saw. There are other gaps anyways, but this is what I'm going to use to explain because this is something that is more obvious. So this is the gap that I've seen amongst brand strategists. They are focusing on the technicalities of brand strategy and all of that. And also another gap for me was the fact that most brand strategists are also designers. I'm not a designer. I'm just a brand strategist. So this is something that I've taken. So this is another type of positioning, but we're not going into that. But yeah, so this is something that I'm honing in on because it's rare to find brands. There are brand strategists, solely brand strategists, but it's very rare, very few of them. In fact, the one that I even thought was just a brand strategist, I later understood that she also is a brand designer. And what makes me different is because I'm focusing on brand strategy alone, I'm able to give you the in-depth approach to it, right? Because most brand designers would definitely, they'll give you something good, right? I'm not saying they won't give you something good, but they're going to give you a section, something in-depth as well, but they'll give you a section because there's also another section, which is the brand identity phase, which is their strength originally, right? But me, I'm honing in on my strength as the brand strategist alone, not a designer. So it means that I'm giving you the full experience of brand strategy. So that's that. Okay, moving on. You're going to ask, what is your sweet spot? So just like I defined mine, so I said, first of all, that the gap my audience was meeting, talking about the human approach, the soul-led approach, that was the gap that my audience had, my competitors had, right? So I try to fill it by doing this. So my sweet spot is to come from, so here in your sweet spot, you're now going to define how you're going to come into the market, right? So I'm coming in as someone who is more soul-led and solely and solely focusing on brand strategy to give you that full brand strategy experience, because I mean, brand strategy is the foundation of everything, right? So it's not a bad thing if you're working with a designer because they will go through the brand strategy with you. It will be in-depth. But how would you like to have like a full-on brand strategy, no attachment of a design, and then when you're done with the brand strategy, you can decide to move on with your design? I mean, obviously you have to, but this is the sweet spot for me, right? The soul-led approach and the fact that I'm focusing solely on brand strategy. Okay, so are we good with this? I want to check the chat. Okay, following. Okay, cool. So moving on, let's craft our positioning statement. Okay, so let me move straight to it. So before we craft our positioning statement, there is a recipe for crafting an effective positioning statement. So the positioning, before I talk about it, the positioning statement is actually an internal statement, an internal document for you to use to guide your positioning on social media, right? So to be able to craft your positioning statement, you need to understand all these key points. You need to be able to understand, sorry about that. You need to be able to understand all these key points to be able to properly craft your positioning statement. Okay, so first of all, let's start with our audience. Remember, we talked about your audience. You have to have your audience in mind when crafting your positioning statement. And again, it's an internal document. It's not something you put out, but you can put it out if you want to. If you have like a website and you want to put something out there for your audience to know more about you, and because your audience are tired of hearing what you sell, they want to know your reason behind what you sell, right? And they want to know your edge from the competitors. So if you even tell them that, then it's a plus for you, right? So now, let's start with the audience. Crafting your positioning statement includes your audience. You'll make a very short description of who they are. For example, female entrepreneurs. So are you ready? So for the audience section, you're going to write audience and then write out who your specific audience is. Sorry. Sorry about that. Someone came and yeah. So if you're ready, let me know. Write out your audience, write out who they are. You can be more specific, like maybe single female entrepreneurs, or I've seen some virtual assistants say something like female entrepreneurs who are married female entrepreneurs who need to get their time back so they can be with family, blah blah blah, right? So those are their types of audience, right? So who is your audience? You can be more specific. And yeah, let's move on to the next one. Their pain points. You're going to write out their pain points. What is your audience pain points? If possible, you can focus on one pain point. So for example, they are confused with their brand, right? Excuse me, they're confused with their brands, right? So you can further define the state of confusion that they are in. Maybe they're confused with who their audience is. Maybe your strength is in helping them understand who their audience is, but mine is more of helping them get clear with their brand, blah, 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 right? So mine would be a very generic one like this, confused with their brands. So you can further, further define what the confusion is for you. So whatever it is that they're struggling with, write that down. All right. And the next step is the solution. So what's a positioning statement without writing out the solution that you provide to that pain point that you've listed out? For you to even write the pain points, it means you have a solution to it, right? So for example, you help them gain clarity with their brands. Again, it depends on what you decide to do. You can go beyond this. It can be help them gain clarity with their audience, help them understand who their audience is, blah, 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 right? So this is the solution. First of all, we went over the audience. If you've written that down, the next step is the pain points. If you've written down that down, don't overthink it. Just write what you can. You don't need to overthink it. And then the solution that you provide, as simple as help them gain clarity with their brands, or help them become more fit without restriction. That's from someone, that's a friend's positioning or solution that she provides for her audience. But yeah, so that's one. And then moving on, you also need to address the end result. The end result is very crucial because it helps you see that the solution you're providing isn't just surface level. For example, it helps them become more confident to book more clients. Because I've realized that when you're stuck, when you're confused, when you're unsure about your brand, you're not confident about what you're doing, and so you won't be able to book clients, because I mean, clients can perceive that this person doesn't have her together. Yeah, so they can perceive that you don't have your together, right? So that's for me. I'm defining my end result, right? So it helps them become more confident. So that's the end result for them. Confidence, it gives them confidence. And then another end result is that they'll get more clients. Another end result is that they're going to make money. So your end result directly doesn't have to lead to making money, but it has to, it would definitely end up making you money, right? But the first goal is on the impact on your audience. So the impact for me is that it helps them become more confident. So if we are done with the end result, the first one was the audience, the next one was their pain points, and then the next one was the solution you provide to the pain point. And then the third one, this one is the end result, right? And now we're going to go to the competitor. So understanding who and what your competitors are or is doing or are doing helps you identify where you stand and how you can be better, right? So like I explained that my competitors, they're doing super fine. They're doing well. But two things. Number one is that they are focusing on both, right? Brand design and brand strategy. More brand design, but they do brand strategy as a lead in towards the brand design, right? So for me, I'm able to say, okay, since they're doing this, I will do this. I will do X, Y, Z. We're going to get to that point. But here is understanding what they do, the gap that you can figure out the gap, right? And then the technicalities aspect of brand strategies, how they focus on technicalities, but how I come in from a very, very different approach. A very different approach using my soul-led approach, right? Being more human in my communication, in my relationship with my clients, or even people online, whether they're clients or not, right? So this is something different for me. But we're not even talking about the difference here. We're talking about the competitors. When you're able to identify them, then you know where you stand. So for example, mine is other brand strategists. So you can just simply write those people in your field, other XYZ, right? So you can go beyond that in your own statement if you want to. But yeah, that's that. So now the difference is also, I use the word the sweet spot so that you can remember from the beginning where we talked about those guys trying to toast me, trying to get my sweet spot. So yeah, so this is that sweet spot. So this is that upside down table. Remember the table illustration. You are the table, you're the brand. And then the study room is your audience's minds. And then the position of the table, the placement of the table is the sweet spot. So the fact that it's upside down is very intriguing, right? So for you to, what is your sweet spot? So this is an added advantage if what you do, so this is another advantage if what you do is already specific but still common. So for instance, mine is very specific, but it's still a bit common. Maybe they don't define it or they don't say it outrightly that I help people gain clarity through brand strategy, but they do, right? So it's specific to me, but it's still common, right? So this is where you add something very specific to what you do or how you do it, which is the approach. So for example, mine would be soul-led brand strategy, right? So I figured that other people, whether brand designers or brand strategists, they definitely help other people get clear on their brands, right? They may not do it through brand strategy alone. They may not do it through brand design alone. They may do it through both, however they do it, but they help you gain clarity with your brand. So when you see that your sweet spot is specific to you, unique to you, but it's still a bit common, you can break it down to your approach of doing that specific thing, because no two persons are the same, and therefore no two businesses are going to be the same. Their approach are going to be different. Even if they're doing the same approach, their way of communicating something is going to be different. So figure yours out, and yeah. So I hope we're following. The first was the audience, the next the pain point, the next the solution, the next the end result, the next the competitor, and the sweet spot. The sweet spot. So let me know if you're following. I'm checking the chats now to see if we're following. And if you have any question, you can ask so that once I'm done, I can, answer your questions. But yeah, so to run over all of this, first of all, you need to address your audience. Who are they? Who is this person you're going to be reaching out to? Like you said, the female entrepreneurs. Okay, cool. They're following. So the female entrepreneurs, cool. You've written that down. Are you writing it down, not just following? Are you crafting? Because the end result for this webinar is that you come out with at least a rough sketch of your positioning statements, right? So the first thing is the audience. Who are they? Write it down. Your audience's pain points. What do you think they struggle with? It doesn't matter if other people are helping them. Just find out what their pain point is. You can create like a long list if you want, or you can just focus on one. And then the solution. What solution do you provide for these people, right? So your solution doesn't really have to be specific to only you. It could just be a solution, something you can provide for them, right? And then the result is next. So, the end result for providing that solution. This helps to, it makes you more confident that the solution you're providing isn't just surface level, but it also goes ahead to birth more wins for the client, right? So after that is the competitor. You're going to understand who the competitor is. So write down who the competitor is, who your competitor is. It could be as simple as other brand strategists if you want, or anything you want to write. And then the last thing is your, okay, cool. The last thing is your sweet spot, right? So like I said, this can work if what you already have is specific but not totally unique to yourself. Maybe other people still do the same thing. So this is where you can craft it from a point of your, from an approach point, let me put it that way, right? Okay, so moving on. Now this is how our positioning statement is going to look like. So I'm going to give you, how many seconds? 10 seconds to, write out these words. I help dash who struggle with dash achieve or gain dash so that they can dash, unlike other dash my solution dash, right? Before I'm going to show you a sample what that looks like, but yeah, you have to first of all write this. So write this down. I'm going to give you 10 seconds to write this down. So the dash there, just like we looked over before, the first dash is I help dash audience, right? Who struggle with dash their pain point. Remember, we've drafted the pain points. Achieve or gain, so that's the solution you have for that pain point, right? So that they can, so that's the end result, right? Unlike other dash. So the dash is the competitor. Remember what we went over just now? And then my solution, blah, blah, blah. So the dash here is your approach. So this is not, it doesn't have to be this way. So for me, this is what works. I like to add the approach style because it helps you, have an edge over them more, as opposed to just the generic style of, okay, I do this, but every other person does it, right? So cool. And yeah, someone else may also be using a soul-led approach, but at least you've defined it to that tiny weeny bit, right? So yeah. So let me know if you are good. If you are good with what we are doing so far. And if you've written down the positioning statement, I'm going to count up to 10. And then I'll move on to the next thing. All right. Okay. Okay, so the next step is, this is the sample. I didn't count up to 10, I just moved. But this is a sample. This is a sample positioning statement using mine. So I said, I'm going to go back. I help dash. So here's my I help dash. So I help audience, female entrepreneurs. Again, you can be more specific if you want, right? So I help dash who struggle with dash, their pain points. So what are their pain points? Mine is they struggle with articulating their brand and are confused with their brand, right? Achieve or gain. So that's the solution, remember? So for me, gain clarity with their brands. Okay, moving back, so that they can, so that's the end result. For me, the end result is so that they can confidently book more of their dream clients, right? Unlike other dash, so remember that's a competitor, unlike other brand strategists, okay, my solution dash. So my solution, then the approach. So for me, it's my solution takes on an approach that is soul-led. So that is my approach. So I further explained, and it helps them reconnect with their brand's heart, right? So I'm just going to focus on the sample here, hoping you've already copied or written out the other one. So I'm gonna say I help female entrepreneurs who struggle with, oh my God. Sorry about the distraction. I help female entrepreneurs who struggle with articulating their brands and are confused as a whole gain clarity with their brands so that they can confidently book more of their dream clients. Unlike other brand strategists, my solution takes on an approach that is soul-led. To further explain my soul-led, and I said it helps them reconnect with their brand's heart. So I hope that is clear. So I've addressed the audience here, I've addressed your pain points, I've addressed the solution that I bring, and I've addressed the end result that they get from the solution that I bring, which further proves that the solution isn't just surface level. And I've also addressed my competitor. You can be more specific if you want. And I've also addressed my approach, which is soul-led, right? Okay, so I'm gonna give you 1 minute, but before I move on to the next, I'm going to go over from the top up to this point, hoping that you've drafted something out, and then I'm gonna ask you if you've drafted yours out, and if you have, please maybe draft it on your notes app or whatever, in your phone or in a paper, whatever it is you want to use, and you're going to take a screenshot or make a story and tag me and Seller so we can see that you actually did something. Okay, so but before then, let's go to the top, because I like to go over things. Okay, so let's refresh, right? So brand positioning strategies for social media growth. Okay, while you do what you're doing, if you've already done, you can refresh with me. Okay, so we've covered what brand positioning really is, types of brand positioning, and what works. Social media positioning strategies, and how to craft your positioning statements, which is what we are on right now. And we're going to be wrapping up pretty soon. I hope I haven't taken your time. But yes, so first of all, we addressed what a brand is. And I said that a brand is anything that has some form of identification, personality, or anything used to mark ownership to a thing. So if you see the Nike logo anywhere, you immediately know that it's attached to a thing. So that's why I said to a thing. So that thing, its attachment to that thing is what makes it a brand, right? So that rope on the chicken that I used as an illustration before is attached to the chicken. So the attachment to it is what makes it a brand, not the rope, right? Not the logo itself. So its attachment to the attachment to the logo is what makes it a brand. So Nike's logo is a brand on its own, and your name can be a brand on its own. Baptista as a name is a brand on its own. Baptista as a person is a brand on its own. So we addressed that, and we also talked about positioning. Using my definitions, a place where something is located. So a location, that is, for example, a table is located or placed in the study room. So the location here, or the positioning here, is the study room. So like we said, this study room equates with your audience's minds. Excuse me. So the subject here is the table, and then the location is the study room, right? And then we also said that it's a way in which something is placed. So it's a location and a manner of which something is placed. So the location is the study room, which is the mind of your audience, and the upside down table is, which is this example, the upside down table is how the table is placed in the study room, or how you as a brand is placed in the mind of your audience. So how do you want to place yourself in the mind of your audience? So that was where we now address the types of positioning, which we're going to go over. So it's all about placement. So when you hear the word brand positioning, just think placement. Placement, audience, mind, right? Placement in the minds of your audience. Placement means there's a destination, right? Placement means there's a way to place it, right? So yeah, moving on, we said that the table could also equal you as a brand, and the study is the mind of your audience, and the upside down table is the way in which you are or you want to be in the minds of your audience, which we are already hopefully drafting out right now as we're going over this. So yeah, how are you going to be placed in the minds of your audience? You want to be upside down, or you want to be upright, or you want to be slanted, however you want to be. So this is what brand positioning includes. It includes the brand, it includes the audience, and it includes the placement, the how, right? So we also used an illustration of a beautiful girl named Baptista with a long list of men who are craving her attention to own a spot in her heart, or even the entire spot, right? And you're one of these men. So this is Baptista as an illustration, who also equates as your audience. And these are the other men who are trying to toast her, who also equate as other businesses, right? And then this is you who's trying to toast me, and damn, you look good. I had to make you look good because you're good. So this is you who's trying to toast Baptista, and this is also your brand. So it's a case of competition. Let's just say it's a constant fight to win that sweet spot, that position in my heart, right? Or in your audience's mind. And it involves your competitors, right? Positioning is nothing without the competitor and your audience, right? So this involves creating that sweet spot in the minds of your audience that your competitors are not, or the other guys are not. So it's a competition. And you know, when there's a competition, if guys are going this way, you want to go this way because you want to stand out, you want to be different, right? So positioning is about standing out. It's about winning their heart as well. It's a competition, right? So we further explained positioning as that sweet spot you want to own in the minds of your audience that makes them choose you over your competitor. So that constant struggle, that constant fight to own that sweet spot, to own their heart, whether it's a sweet spot or the entire spot, to own that spot in your audience's mind. So that's what brand positioning is. That constant struggle, or that constant fight, or that it's a continuous thing, right? It's not a one-off thing. You don't just position and that's it. You position, but then there are other things to follow up, right? So we also talked about types of brand positioning, and we said we have the value-based positioning, price-based positioning, benefits-based positioning, and problem/solution positioning. So for the value-based positioning, this is a type of positioning that uses value as its edge over competitors, as we said, and we use an example, Apple, which is a brand that sort of creates a mindset or a reputation in the minds of their audience. So they position themselves as people who help their audience feel like they're in a certain class because they understood their audience's pain points, that their audience are the type who want to be in this space, right? And then we have the price-based positioning, which is a type of positioning that uses price as its edge over competitors. And I use an example, Dollar Shave Club, who understood that their audience wanted something for an everyday person, something that isn't too expensive, something they can afford. I mean, it's a household product, right? So it's not like Apple that's a gadget, right? This is something that people buy every day. And so they understood their audience's pain points, and so they leveraged that price point as their positioning strategy. So they've said that, okay, this is who we are, and we're here for those who want convenience and affordability. And then the benefits we also used, I'm just going to go to the example. I want to brush this up. Okay, we also talked about Sensodyne as an example of a brand that uses benefits over the benefits that other brands uses. So for example, the Sensodyne is a toothpaste brand, and there's Close Up, there are other brands, but their brand stands out in terms of the benefits because you stand to gain a more healthier teeth. It provides oral solutions, unlike other brands that are going for whitening your teeth and all of that, right? So this is based on benefit. Okay, so I also talked about problem and solution-based positioning, which is one that I use. It's one that leverages problems and solutions by creating in my audience's minds that, hey, I'm here to help you solve XYZ problem. And that XYZ problem is a specific problem. And in my case, it's helping them. The problem here is they're not clear with their brand, or they're confused, or they're stuck. They're having problems articulating what their brand is about, blah, blah, blah. So that's it. So my positioning is that I'm letting you know that I'm here and I can help you get clear on your brand. I can help you solve that problem because it's a problem that you have, and I'm here to provide the solution, right? Okay. So we also talked about it being on social media, and we said social media is a very large space and it can be very hard, but this is where an effective positioning strategy comes into play. So this is strategy. It could be more in-depth than this, trust me, but this is enough to give you a head start, right? So I said that using steps, you have to start with your audience, because I mean that's the most basic, that's the foundational aspect. If you're talking about brand positioning, what are you positioning? You're positioning your brand for your audience, so your audience have to be involved, right? So you move to your competitors. There's no positioning without competitors, because why fight for a spot in their hearts if there are no people to fight for it with, right? And then you further define your positioning. Okay, so hi Stella, is my time up? Okay, so okay, I think my time is up, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, so we also started with the audience, and we said you need to identify who these people are and then what their pain points are, right? And then we moved over to the competitor, and then we said we need to identify who in the market tries to meet their needs, and then where are they failing to meet those needs, right? And then we moved over to defining your positioning. And we said, how would you take that opportunity? You've seen the gap you want to fill. How are you going to fill it? So, and also, what is your sweet spot? So you have to define your sweet spot. So now we are in crafting our positioning statement, and we've gone over all the recipe that's involved in crafting a good positioning statement for your brand. And we said you need to know your audience, your audience's pain points, the solution, the end result, which hopefully you're writing down or you've written down, the competitor. If you've written that down so that we can move further, even if you don't signal, I'm just going to move further anyways. But yeah, please let me know in the chat. And then the sweet spot, and yeah, so that's it. The audience, the pain point, the solution, the end result, competitor, and then the sweet spot. And then we provided the template for crafting your own positioning statement, okay? And then I gave you what it looks like in real life using my own positioning statement. So this is supposed to be my internal document, but I'm using this to explain with you because you need to understand how to craft yours as well. Okay, so bonus, to wrap this up in the next slide. So before we go over the bonus, if you've done your positioning statement, don't forget to share with us on your stories and tag us. And yeah, let's see if this was really helpful. Okay, so the bonus, to wrap this up in the next slide, we're going to be going through some pointers to position your brand on social media. So some strategies to positioning your brand on social media are: know where your audience is. What is the platform that they are? For me, it's Instagram, right? And make where they are your home. So I've made Instagram my home. The next thing is to build that home before jumping into building other homes. I made that mistake of trying to build Instagram, the home where my audience is, and trying to be other places as well. And it could lead to burnout, right? Especially if you're a one-man business, right? So you want to focus and ensure you've sort of left an imprint, left a mark to a point where you can now extend, right? So the next thing is to let your new defined positioning guide your actions, let it guide your content. So if my positioning is the soul-led approach, or my positioning is the fact that I'm focusing solely on brand strategy and all of that, I'm going to make sure that every single thing that I do online, where my content gets to get information from me, is going to be guided by my positioning, right? Because that's when the positioning starts to take effect, right? You're going to make sure, so if it's how you communicate or the kind of posts you put out, maybe, for instance, I said technicalities that other brand strategies focus on. I could come in sharing content that is very vulnerable, very me, very human, and all of that, because that's my positioning. It doesn't mean that I am not providing same value. I am, but that's my positioning. So it's going to guide my every action. And next thing is you have to be consistent in communicating, and yes, in communicating with your position. Sorry, okay. Salah says I should keep going. Okay. Yeah, but I'm wrapping up. So be consistent with communicating your positioning, and build connections with your competitors. Yeah, I know they're competitors, but I mean, it's just the word. and it's just so that you know that you have an edge over them, but it doesn't make them your enemies. Well, again, like I said, this is my positioning. I'm more soul driven. I'm more human. So that's why I would never see anybody as an actual rival, right? I would see everyone as one, right? I would see all of us as we're doing the thing together. That's why even though I'm different in a way, we're still the same, right? So build connections with them, because again, you're gonna learn from them. They're gonna learn from you. You're gonna rub minds. It's gonna sort of elevate your brand, sort of, right? Okay, let's just stop there. I don't want to go too deep. So the last thing is to build relationships with your audience. So we've talked about building relationship with your competitors. You also need to build relationship with your audience. So don't just be a brand that just comes online, just does, oh, this is what we live by, this is what we stand for, blah, blah, blah. Don't just come pouring out all the documents we've built for you in your brand strategy. Don't just do that. Be more human, be more, communicate more with your audience, beyond just communicating what you're about. Also talk to them, get to listen to them. Communication is a two-way thing. Talk to them and hear back from them, right? Okay, and this is the end. Okay, so one more thing. If you're looking at getting clear on your brand's essence, you're looking at getting clear, articulating your brand, you're feeling confused, stuck, and all of that, then I have what I call the signature brand strategy experience that would cater to that. And if you want more, you can go to my website or connect with me on Instagram at this Baptista, and you can send me a DM, or the website. Yeah, like I said, so if you're feeling stuck and confused with your brand and you need help clarifying all of that, then I'm only a DM away or a click away. Go to my website. Stella said they've already displayed it, so you could check it out, or even follow me on Instagram. Let's chat. And and that's about it. So,
Thanks, Baptista. This is a really great session, and people
thank
learn
you
from it.
too.
Thanks for your time. Thanks to everybody that came for the webinar. I really hope you guys had a
Thank
very
you.
insightful session. To wrap up, and I'm really just gonna wrap this up very quickly. We're Stella. We're an online store builder for people selling any kind of digital products or physical products. And I hope this was a very insightful session